In the hidden corners of ancient lore lies a terrifying entity whispered about in forbidden texts, a demon said to bring ruin not to ordinary lives, but to entire thrones. Tonight, we dive into the chilling legend of the being believed to have cursed kings, toppled empires, and twisted the fate of kingdoms with a single vow. From forgotten rituals to eerie historical coincidences, this is the story of a force feared by rulers and priests alike. Prepare yourself as we uncover the dark power behind centuries of chaos, the demon that shaped history through fear. Let's begin. The demon that cursed kings and kingdoms. Throughout mythology, there are demons of fire, demons of storms, demons who tempt mortals, and demons who whisper in the shadows. But above them all, there is one being feared not for brute power, but for his unmatched gift of desolation, a spirit whose curse bent the fates of kings and shattered entire civilizations. His name changed across cultures, Aragzul, the Withering One, he who marks the crown, but his presence always signaled one thing, the downfall of rulers. This is his story. The birth of a curse. According to ancient priest scribes from Mesopotamia, Aragzul was once an angelic guardian appointed to watch over the rise and fall of earthly dynasties. His role was not to interfere, but to observe, a celestial historian chronicling the deeds of kings. But over centuries, as he watched rulers drown in greed, murder their own blood, or lead their people into ruin, a bitterness grew in him. Legends say he questioned why humans, so fragile, so temporary, were allowed to hold so much power. This question became resentment, and resentment became rebellion. It is said that when a tyrant spilled innocent blood upon the steps of a temple dedicated to the divine order Aragzul once served, the angel confronted the heavens and demanded judgment. When no judgment came, he shattered the sacred tablet he was meant to protect and walked into the world of mortals. That moment, according to lore, transformed him. His celestial light dimmed, twisted, and hardened into the darkness of vengeance. He was no longer a watcher. He became a curse-bearer. 2. The mark of Aragzul. Unlike demons who possess bodies or tempt souls, Aragzul's power manifested through what the ancients called the mark of Uruan. This mark was invisible to human eyes but burned like fire in the spiritual realm. It clung to kings, queens, warlords, and rulers, anyone who dared to wield authority with arrogance or bloodshed. Once marked, their fate followed a pattern repeated across civilizations. Their mind became clouded, turning wisdom into paranoia. Their council fractured, as trusted allies grew hostile and divided. Their prosperity decayed, crops failed, wars erupted, and the people revolted. Their dynasty collapsed, even if they survived. To Aragzul, the fall of tyrants was justice. To historians who studied his trail, it was devastation. The demon never needed a weapon. His curse was subtle, psychological, and spiritual, an unraveling of the internal fabric that held kingdoms together. It is said a king never heard his voice, but always felt his presence, the chill in the throne room, the whisper behind the curtain, the shadow that lingered even under bright sun. 3. The first kingdom to fall. The earliest known reference comes from a clay tablet found near the ruins of Kish. It tells the story of King Enemu, a ruler known for both wisdom and cruelty, a contradiction common to great monarchs. The text claims that Enemu violated a sacred oath by betraying his own brother, sacrificing him during a famine in an attempt to gain favor from the gods. That night, while the moon turned red, a shadow entered his chamber. The priests later described the event. Not smoke nor wind, but something that hungered for the soul of a king. Within weeks, Enemu's mind began to break. He accused his wife of plotting his death, exiled his most loyal generals, and executed the high priest who warned him of the curse. Civil war erupted, and within 3 years, the once mighty kingdom fell to its neighbors. Ancient chroniclers wrote that when the king finally died, his corpse bore a dark imprint over the heart, a symbol resembling a broken crown. This broken crown motif appears in dozens of civilizations, suggesting Aragzul's influence was far-reaching. 4. Egypt, the pharaoh who saw the demon. In Egyptian lore, The curse manifests in the legend surrounding Pharaoh Nebenhotep, a ruler whose reign promised prosperity but ended in madness. Hieroglyphs within his abandoned tomb describe a night when Nebenhotep dreamt of a figure whose face was hidden behind a veil of smoke, and whose eyes were like empty stars. Unlike most victims, the pharaoh tried to resist the demon's curse. He ordered rituals, sacrifices, and even the construction of a temple meant to imprison the spirit. None of it worked. Nebenhotep's fear drove him to paranoia. He slaughtered advisors, dismissed generals, and alienated the priests who upheld his authority. The Nile failed to flood, famine spread, and the kingdom's unity collapsed. The final record of his life says, "The pharaoh tore his crown from his head and cast it into the sacred river, but the shadow remained. It had come not for the crown of gold, but for the crown of the soul." This phrase, the crown of the soul, became central to later theological interpretations of Aragzal. It implied the demon targeted not just political authority, but the spiritual legitimacy behind it. The empire that defied him. Not every kingdom succumbed easily. In the writings of the Persian Magi, there is mention of a mysterious sage priest known as Azarka, who confronted Aragzal directly. According to Zoroastrian-inspired legends, Azarka had foresight that a great curse was approaching the empire, threatening the king and the royal line. Instead of preparing armies or rituals, he prepared a confrontation of truth. The legend says he stood atop a fire altar at night and called out, "You who punish tyrants, will you punish the just as well?" A shadow answered. Azarka and Aragzal debated for what the texts describe as 3 days without the movement of the stars. At the end, the demon withdrew, not because he was defeated, but because he acknowledged that the king Azarka defended was not corrupt. For the first time in known myth, the demon hesitated. This rare moment led scholars to theorize that Aragzal was not a mindless destroyer. He possessed judgment, twisted, harsh, and merciless, but judgment nonetheless. 6. The Medieval Chronicles, Europe's Black Throne Curse. By the Middle Ages, Aragzal had become known simply as the Black Throne Curse. Chroniclers wrote that any ruler who claimed power through treachery, assassination, or forbidden arts risked the demon's wrath. The most famous tale comes from the kingdom of Rodrich in Eastern Europe. King Marislav seized the throne by poisoning his nephew, the rightful heir. The same night, a storm unlike any other formed above the citadel. The curse did not merely destroy his rule, it corrupted his legacy for generations. His bloodline eventually died out, and the kingdom fractured into smaller territories. In the royal archive survived one chilling sentence, supposedly written by a dying court scribe. The king feared no man, but he trembled before the shadow that sat upon his throne. 7. Why kings and kingdoms? Mythologists and theologians have long debated why Aragzal's curse focuses on rulers rather than common people. Several theories emerge. 1. Kings shape the fate of millions. Ancient cultures believed that when a ruler fell, the entire kingdom was judged. Demons that targeted rulers therefore possessed wide influence. 2. Power attracts corruption. To many traditions, the throne itself was a spiritual crucible. Those who misused power awakened dark forces that balanced the scales. 3. Aragzal's origin. If he was once a celestial historian, as many legends claim, then his rebellion was born from witnessing centuries of human failure. His curse was not random, it was moral vengeance. 4. The symbolism of the crown. The crown represented divine authority. To corrupt it was to corrupt the divine order. Aragzal targeted the crown to reset that cosmic balance. 8. How the curse spread across civilizations. One of the most fascinating aspects of Aragzal's myth is its cross-cultural consistency. Without known contact between some of these civilizations, similar descriptions of the same demon appear in Sumerian curse tablets, Egyptian funerary inscriptions, Hebrew apocalyptic fragments, Persian Magi texts, Greek oracles, medieval chronicles, West African oral myths. Arabic desert lore. In each, the demon is connected to the fall of rulers. Some scholars hypothesize that Aragzul represents not a literal being, but a collective memory of historical collapse, embodied as a supernatural figure that personifies fate, karma, or political decay. But believers argue the opposite. The consistency proves he existed. 9. The last recorded appearance, the cursed emperor of the East. One of the most dramatic accounts comes from East Asian records describing Emperor Jin Hai, a ruler known for brutal expansion and merciless rule. In the 12th year of his reign, witnesses described a black storm encircling the palace for 3 nights. Unlike ordinary storms, no rain fell. Only silence and a strange humming vibration in the air. The court astrologer declared it a heavenly omen of the shadow judge. Shortly after, the emperor became consumed with fear of assassination. He had his own son imprisoned. The royal treasury emptied. A peasant uprising erupted across the countryside. A rival clan seized the capital. When the emperor finally fled, he reportedly screamed that a shadow followed everywhere, even into my dreams. His body was later found with the same mark seen on ancient kings, the broken crown burned over his chest. His dynasty ended that same year. The true nature of Aragzul. Is he truly a demon? A fallen angel? A mythological construct? Interpretations vary. Theological interpretation. Aragzul represents divine judgment twisted by bitterness. He punishes rulers, but without mercy or balance. Mythological interpretation. He is the embodiment of the universal truth that all empires fall. A symbolic force of destiny. Psychological interpretation. The curse mirrors how paranoia, guilt, and corruption naturally erode leadership from within. Esoteric interpretation. He is a spiritual parasite that feeds on the downfall of authority, thriving on instability. Historical interpretation. The demon's legend grew out of real patterns. Bad rulers invite rebellion, famine follows mismanagement, and kingdoms collapse under tyranny. All interpretations agree on one thing: his curse follows a cycle of decline, whether supernatural or moral. 11. Can the curse be broken? Only 2 traditions claim it is possible. 1. The Persian legend of Azarka. When faced with the demon, the sage defended a just king. Aragzul retreated, not defeated, but acknowledging the king was undeserving of the curse. This implies righteous leadership repels him. 2. The Hebrew fragment known as the Tablet of 7 Winds. This fragment states, "No curse clings where humility reigns." It suggests the demon cannot harm rulers who hold power with humility, justice, and self-control. Thus, the only defense is moral strength, not rituals, armies, or wealth. 12. The demon's legacy today. Though ancient kingdoms have fallen, the legend of Aragzul continues. In modern occult circles, he is cited as the spirit of political collapse. Some conspiracy theories even claim he influences modern governments behind the scenes, though these ideas remain fringe. Psychologists studying leadership failure sometimes reference the myth metaphorically when analyzing corruption, authoritarian decline, paranoia in leaders, institutional decay. Historians see Aragzul as a poetic reminder that no ruler, no government, and no civilization is immune to collapse. The curse that outlived kingdoms. Aragzul, the demon that cursed kings and kingdoms, embodies one of humanity's oldest truths: power carries consequences. Whether literally a supernatural being or a symbol of political decay, his legend warns every generation that tyranny and corruption summon forces, spiritual or societal, that will eventually tear down even the greatest of empires. His curse is not a spell. It is a reflection. A reflection of how rulers shape destiny. How arrogance destroys nations. And how even the mightiest crown can be shattered by shadows. In the end, Aragzul is not just a demon of myth. He is a reminder, every kingdom falls, but some fall because something in the shadows pushed them. When demons ruled thrones, the curse that shattered kingdoms, a deep exploration of power, corruption, and the mythic curse that brought empires to ruin. Across ancient civilizations, from Mesopotamia and Egypt to Greece, Persia, and the kingdoms of early Africa, stories circulate about rulers who fell not by sword or siege, but by invisible forces that twisted their minds, poisoned their courts, and shattered their kingdoms from within. These beings, described in myth as demons, spirits, shadows, jinn, or cursed agents, were believed to move through power like smoke, unseen yet devastating. Their touch did not kill instantly, instead, it rotted the foundations of entire empires. This is the heart of the mythic concept known as when demons ruled thrones. It is not the story of demons sitting on thrones literally, but of demonic influence commanding kings, generals, high priests, queens, or advisors, turning mighty rulers into puppets of chaos. Kingdoms did not fall because their enemies were strong, but because their leaders were cursed. This explanation explores the origins, symbolism, evolution, and cultural meanings behind the idea of demon-ruled thrones and curses that destroyed civilizations. Origins of the legend, where the curse began. The mythological roots of demon-ruled thrones appear in multiple ancient sources, each describing a similar theme: a kingdom falls when its ruler becomes spiritually compromised. 1. Mesopotamian roots. In Babylonian and Sumerian lore, demons like Lamashtu, Asag, and Pazuzu were not merely monsters, they were forces capable of influencing rulers. Clay tablets describe demons whispering into the ears of kings, driving them into paranoia, greed, or madness. A recurring belief was that demons entered palaces through unjust bloodshed, broken oaths, corruption in the temple, arrogance before the gods. Once such a spiritual stain existed, demons were believed to have a legal right to haunt the throne. 2. Ancient Hebrew and Near Eastern influence. Old Testament stories echo the same idea. King Saul is said to be tormented by an evil spirit, which clouded his judgment, caused fits of rage, and ultimately led to his downfall. This was a ruler destroyed not by armies, but by internal torment, believed to be supernatural. 3. Greek and Roman interpretations. The Greeks spoke of daemons, not always evil, but capable of influencing fate and thought. In their tragedies, a king under demonic influence becomes a figure of hubris, blinded by ego and driven into ruin. The Romans adopted similar ideas: a cursed emperor could usher in civil war, famine, or tyranny. 4. African interpretations. Across West, Central, and East Africa, myths speak of malevolent spirits who deceive rulers, turn councils against each other, or bring madness and bloodshed. These entities, like Obeifo, Ashanti, Ads, U, Kishi, Angola, Shane, North Africa, were believed to target powerful leaders because corrupting a king meant corrupting an entire kingdom. Thus, the belief emerged: when demons rule the throne, the nation itself becomes cursed. 2. The nature of the curse, how demons take power. The curse that shattered kingdoms is usually described in mythology not as a single event but as a process, a gradual spiritual infection. 1. Entry point: moral or spiritual weakness. Demons rarely force themselves onto rulers. Myth says they are invited through greed, betrayal, unjust killings, broken vows, forbidden knowledge, pride. The throne becomes spiritually vulnerable. The demon does not appear visibly, but attaches itself to the rulers. Thoughts, emotions, dreams, desires. This is the first stage of the curse. 2. Corruption of the mind. At this stage, the ruler becomes unpredictable. Paranoia increases. Trusted allies seem like enemies. Decisions are fueled by fear or cruelty. Wise counsel is rejected. Impulses override reason. In myth, this is when the demon sits behind the throne, whispering into the mind. 3. Corruption of the court. The curse spreads to advisors who betray one another, generals who rebel or turn to violence, priests who fall into corruption. A kingdom ruled by a cursed king becomes a spiritually diseased court, where everyone seeks power, wealth, or survival. No one trusts anyone. 4. Corruption of the land. Nature itself responds in mythology. Crops fail. Plagues spread. Storms increase. Drought or unnatural famine emerges. Ancient people believed the moral state of a ruler directly affected the land. A cursed king meant a cursed harvest. 5. Collapse of the kingdom. Finally, the kingdom falls, not always by invasion, but by civil war, rebellion, famine, economic collapse, assassination, total breakdown of order. This is the moment the curse shatters the kingdom. 3. Famous mythological examples. 1. King Nebuchadnezzar's madness. In biblical and Babylonian tales, Nebuchadnezzar is cursed with madness after his pride reaches divine offense. He loses his sanity, wanders like a wild animal, and the empire nearly collapses. His story is a classic example of a demon-ruled throne. Arrogance opened the door to a spiritual affliction. 2. The curse of King Oedipus. Although not demonic in a literal sense, Oedipus' throne is plagued by spiritual corruption. His actions unknowingly invite disaster on Thebes. Demons or spirits are not explicitly named, but the pattern of cursed kingship is identical. 3. The Pharaoh of Exodus. Ancient tradition interpreted Pharaoh's hardened heart as demonic or divine judgment. His refusal to listen, despite multiple disasters, mirrors the myth of a ruler spiritually blinded until his kingdom is devastated. 4. African legends of cursed chiefs. Many African myths tell of chiefs who, after breaking sacred oaths, become spiritually tormented. Their leadership leads to drought, famine, or endless war until a ritual cleansing or replacement occurs. 5. The Japanese tale of Emperor Sutoku. After death, the emperor becomes a powerful demonic spirit, Onryo, believed to cause conflict and calamity. Sutoku's rage was said to influence the imperial court long after his reign. Each example shows the same pattern: the ruler becomes an instrument of destruction through supernatural influence. 4. Symbolism behind demons on thrones. The myth of demon-ruled thrones is not only supernatural, it is symbolic. 1. A warning against absolute power. Ancient storytellers used demons as metaphors for unchecked ego, moral decay, abuse of authority, the madness that comes with isolation. A king who forgets justice becomes spiritually vulnerable. 2. A reflection of political chaos. When a kingdom fell through internal corruption, people explained it through demons. It gave meaning to inexplicable cruelty, irrational decisions, sudden societal collapse. Demonology became a language for describing political turmoil. 3. A moral mirror. Demons symbolize the darker aspects of humanity: envy, lust, cruelty, greed, obsession. When these traits dominate a ruler, the throne becomes possessed. 4. A cultural mechanism for accountability. By saying a demon ruled the king, people could criticize the ruler without direct treason. It was a safe narrative tool. The demon strategy: why thrones are targeted. In mythology, demons pursue thrones for strategic reasons. 1. Influence over many. Corrupting one king corrupts millions. It is efficient spiritual warfare. 2. Power as a spiritual beacon. Thrones emit energy in ancient belief, divine attention or ancestral authority. Demons seek to twist that energy. 3. The throne as a gateway. Many cultures saw the throne as a ritual seat connecting the king, The gods. The ancestors. The land. If demons seize the throne's spiritual connection, they seize the kingdom's fate. For ego is the weakest defense. Power breeds pride, and pride is the easiest doorway for demonic influence. 6. The fall, how kingdoms shatter under the curse. Every myth follows a sequence of collapse. 1. The people lose faith. Once citizens believe the king is cursed, rebellion brews. Loyalty shifts from sacred duty to survival. 2. Advisors turn against one another. The demon amplifies ambition and jealousy, leading to coups, assassinations, plots. 3. Generals become warlords. Army loyalty fractures. Generals take territory for themselves. The nation dissolves. 4. Foreign enemies swoop in. A cursed kingdom is easy prey. Often invaders claim the gods permitted the conquest due to the king's corruption. 5. The land itself rejects its king. Nature, in myth, mirrors the spirit of the ruler. A cursed king creates dead crops, dried rivers, spreading disease. Thus, even the land rebels. 7. Breaking the curse, can demon-ruled thrones be saved? Myths describe several ways kingdoms attempted to break the curse. 1. Ritual cleansing. Priests conducted exorcisms, sacrifices, purification rites, burning of cursed objects. Sometimes these rituals succeeded, often they failed. 2. Removal of the ruler. In many traditions, the only cure was dethroning the corrupted leader. Once the king was dethroned or killed, spiritual balance returned. 3. Confession or repentance. A ruler acknowledging their wrongdoing could weaken the demon's influence. 4. Intervention of divine or ancestral forces. Sometimes gods, angels, or ancestral spirits intervened, usually after extreme suffering. 8. What the myth teaches today. Though ancient, the idea of demon-ruled thrones continues to hold symbolic power. It teaches 1. A leader's morality shapes a nation. A corrupt leader rots the entire system. 2. Power without wisdom becomes destructive. The demon is often symbolic of internal flaws magnified by authority. 3. Societies fall from within before they fall from outside. The curse reflects a truth still seen in history. 4. Spiritual and political corruption are intertwined. Many cultures saw no separation between moral decay and political collapse. When demons ruled thrones. When demons ruled thrones, the curse that shattered kingdoms is ultimately a mythic exploration of the dark forces, supernatural or psychological, that rise when power corrupts. It captures the universal fear that a leader's downfall becomes a nation's downfall. It blends ancient demonology with political wisdom, showing that kingdoms fall not only by invasion, but by the spiritual rot of their rulers. The demon is not always a creature with horns. Sometimes it is arrogance, greed, madness, unchecked ambition. And when such demons rule a throne, kingdoms collapse, leaving behind ruins, legends, and warnings carved into the memory of civilizations. And that concludes our journey into the chilling legend of the demon said to have haunted kings and shattered kingdoms. Whether myth, metaphor, or something far more real, its story reminds us how fear, ambition, and power can shape the destiny of entire civilizations. If this dive into forbidden history intrigued you, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss another exploration into the darker side of myth and lore. Share your thoughts or theories in the comments below, I'd love to hear them. Until next time, stay curious, and stay vigilant.